we, talkSPORT en masse, are personas non gratas. We're not wanted.
We're banned. Because if he about and switches off and gets caught, Francis Ngannou, as we know, has got the power.
There's still plenty of money in this fight. You could still make this Wilder Joshua fight at 50 million
Absolutely.
quid. Welcome to Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver. This is episode 45. Don't forget to keep liking the channel and subscribing to the videos. This will be a show, Spence. Welcome, nice to see you.
Oh, nice to see you as well,
where
Simon.
the person on the show doesn't spend their whole time talking about themselves. Mr. Frotch, Mr. Frotch. How are you, mate?
Yeah, really well, mate. Yourself?
Good.
Good to have you back.
Nice to be back.
Yeah.
Couple of good fights on the weekend. Obviously, Jack Catterall came out with a result, which is pleasing.
Yeah.
And we may yet see Catterall versus Taylor, which is a fight that I want to see.
Mm-hmm.
I want Josh to go in there and do the job, with no disrespect to Jack, that he should have done in the first fight, and clean up that particular debate about who won that fight, because I know you and I think that Jack won that fight, and Josh Taylor doesn't want to talk to me anymore because I had the audacity to suggest that he lost it. Yeah. But interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think Jack Catterall got the job done on Saturday night against Jorge Linares, former freeweight world champion, 38 years of age. Best days have been behind him. Lost his last 3 or 4 fights, but he gave a good account of himself. And I think Jack Catterall played it safe, maybe a little too safe, really, because you felt like when you was watching the show, I think he hurt Linares in the 5th or 6th round. And you felt if he would have just turned the screw a little bit there, jumped on him, he could have got the job done. But look, it was a good performance, and he deserves that rematch against Josh Taylor.
Absolutely right.
Eddie Hearn come on Saturday night, actually, and said, look, that is the fight he's now trying to push for. He's happy to do it at a catchweight. So, you know, it's not like Taylor's got to get down to 147. They can do it at 150 or whatever. So it's a fight I think that Josh Taylor needs to redeem himself because of the backlash that he's had through that,
I don't know
the controversies surrounding it.
I don't know if he needs to redeem himself.
No,
I think he needs to correct the record, because I don't think he was particularly magnanimous about the victory. I don't think he gave a lot of credit to Jack Catterall. He was incredibly disparaging before the fight, didn't even price him into the equation. And it was a loss, and he got a win, and he didn't give any credit to Jack. So, and I don't suspect he should have done either, because as a fighter fights after a fight, you ask him questions, they're going to have an emotional investment. But I think for the Josh Taylor that I've watched over the years, that was pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world, he needs to go and correct that sort of.
Undoubtedly, you know, I think for Josh Taylor, I think it was what he done was he made a bad decision of saying, well, he felt that he had won the fight, but when he'd have looked it back, he would have seen that actually, like most of us,
the boxing gods are with him.
There you go, and that's the way that he should have played that one, and it happens to everyone. Everyone gets lucky. Mayweather actually did against Castillo the first time that he boxed. You know, he got a result that went his way. It happens all the time, but it's the manner that he dealt with it that's forced him to sort of turn the public against him a little bit. And he is one of the pound for pound best fighters of our generation. What he's achieved and what he's done on the road without really the TV backing, you know, he should be a bigger star than he actually is.
And I think that, you know, disappointingly, Josh has gone on the turn with me, because I made observations about the Jack Catterall fight and then tried to pin him down on the last time he was on one of the other shows. He didn't like it. So now he won't talk to me. But that's fine. And the fact of the matter is another one of the thin-skinned gang. Talking about the thin-skinned gang, right? It's Fury and Ngannou week this week, obviously. And I understand that we, talkSPORT en masse, are personas non gratas. We're not wanted.
We're banned.
Just before it was made, you know, when people thought it wasn't going to get made, you know, I'll name. I think Simon Jordan, he was quite open about it, and obviously from his point of view at the time, it seemed like, you know, the fight wasn't going to happen, and Tyson took the Ngannou fight instead. I think the comments he made was that, you know, he should be ashamed of himself if he's not going to fight Usyk, and, you know, words such as duck were used as well. You know, what was going through your mind when you was watching stuff like that? Because it was quite a big news story at the time.
I was just thinking, who really cares? I don't really know. I've watched them all. But Simon Jordan phoned up Tyson wanting to give him to go on his show, and Tyson refused. No talkSPORT is covering any fights of Tyson anymore. So when you get a living off of someone, you got to try and be sensible with them and talk facts. And if you talk facts, you can't upset anyone, can you? All right, the man's doing his job, he's talk facts, but when they're not facts and they're your opinion, Well, everyone's got an opinion, and unless you know the facts, what went into it, it is what it is. I'm sure Usyk's and Usyk's people know the truth, you know, but it is what it is. When you earn a living off someone, you've just got to try and be half sensible. But talkSPORT and Simon Jordan will never have anything to do with Tyson again. And the biggest fight in history is coming up, and he's might have done a few hundred thousand views on the some stupidness what he said, but you know, it is what it is. I'm sure he'll do something else, but he won't be working with Tyson.
This audience of 1.2 million that we bring every single week on a Thursday afternoon, dedicated to the boxing world, where people should be saying thank you, is now being turned against us because I had the audacity. I've got this credit and debit column. In the credit column is all the praise for Tyson Fury, generationally best heavyweight, charismatic, phenomenal achievements in the ring. In the debit, not been really particularly impressed recently with some of your outbursts on social media. Thought that you should have taken the Usyk fight, understand a little bit more that there was difficulty in making that fight, and think you should pay your bet to Piers Morgan because you made the bet and didn't pay it. And all of a sudden, look, we're banned.
Do you know what? It's crazy, Simon, because...
And I really wanted to go to the Ngannou fight as well.
Do you know what, though? It is crazy because if you look back, and we've looked back at many of the conversations that we've had in previous shows, and you see what you've been saying. You're saying, listen, you're not denying that he's not the #1 heavyweight of this generation, and that he could go down as one of the greatest heavyweights of all time if he cleans up the division. What we were talking about was the facts that the Usyk fight wasn't made, and we understand that the money wasn't there from Saudi, and Fury was chasing, waiting for that money to deliver, and we got the Ngannou fight, but it was the frustration at the time. Totally understand all of that, but to say that we're haters is wrong, because we're not haters. No one denies where Fury's coming from, or where he's at in the heavyweight division and who he is. It was the fight was made at that time. We've got the undisputed fight now made. Great. But we're not haters, that's for sure.
But the disappointing thing for me is obviously, I'm a big fan of Tyson Fury's. I admire his dad. I think that they've done, I think his dad's a brilliant observer on boxing. He's forgotten more than someone like me will ever know. And I listen to him, and I take a lot from what he says when he's observing on fights. I've watched Tyson Fury. I've talked about him opening up the heavyweight division, which the beneficiaries were Anthony Joshua when he went over to Germany, beat Klitschko, scattered the belts. He's the one that took on Deontay Wilder. When I sat with him before the Dillian White fight, I saw a star, a man with charisma. And then I see this childish side of things, and I know that it's driven by these bedroom bloggers, these YouTubers that can't find any content for their own. So what they do is they plagiarize what you and I say or other people say, nick it, bastardize it, turn it around, and then haunt people with it, and then create content. So that's why, when I used to go to the boxing fights, I used to be quite happy. I don't mind Coogan. I think Coogan's as good as gold. But some of these other guys that are sitting there, that are creating content, that are suggesting certain things, and then creating division, whatever light you shine on boxing should be for the betterment of it. And I think that what we try to do, and don't always succeed, but we try to do it, is try to be really honest about it, call it as we see it without any particular agendas. And people think that I like Frank better than I like Eddie, and I like Ben. Well, that's true, I do. But on a boxing landscape, I admire them, each and every one of them, for the things that they do, and don't like some of the things they don't do. So I'm disappointed. And Shane Fury was saying that talkSPORT are going to be banned. Well, fine, if that's what you want to do. Fine, you can ban me from a fight I didn't want to go to. And I'm sure they'll weaponize it and say, we're going to do it when we fight Usyk as well. Okay, fine. If you want to turn down one of the biggest sports broadcasters that is actually pro-boxing, pro-Tyson Fury, and has spent the last 2 or 3 years, even with you and Johnny Nelson sitting in the studio snivelling about the fact you thought Anthony Joshua would beat Fury.
Well, listen, we're talking 2-3 years ago, by the way.
I know. So anyway, keep up the good work, YouTubers. You're doing a great job. Anyway.
Yeah, it was. To be fair though, it was frustrating because I watched the interview that Shane done actually.
But he's right.
a good guy, Shane.
But he's right to pull me up, because I did make one observation that they can weaponise, which was I think it would be shameful if he ducks Usyk. Because
you used the wrong word, basically.
I did, because I know that Tyson Fury, and I've said it subsequently, ain't ducking anybody. I do think that he's maybe difficult to deal with. I do think he has very definite views of what he's entitled to. And I do think that makes it difficult to make fights sometimes. But I don't think he ducks anybody. So if I've dropped that into a conversation, then that's the one thing I'd say, okay, well, you can weaponise that against me. And the idea that Tyson was asked to come and do a show with me, it wasn't talkSPORT, get your facts right, it was a different platform. And I said to the guys, you can ask him, but I don't think Tyson will come on because, like all of these boxers, and it disappoints me. I don't know why in a sport where you guys are so brave and so strong and do so many things that most people couldn't even contemplate, the moment someone says something you don't like, people start crying. And in fairness to Eddie Hearn, he's one of the few people that have taken exception to what I've said and gone, right, I'll have it with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll come on a show and I'll put you straight.
Yeah.
You know, whether he his way through that show is a different discussion. But notwithstanding that.
Anyway, enough of that
hopefully
nonsense.
Things will change and everyone will be nice and friendly again. Big fight build up.
Yes.
I mean, if I get another text message from Frank Warren saying the YouTube views have reached 200 million now. What's the click-through rate, Frank? How much do they get in pay-per CPM?
Yeah.
You're a dinosaur, Simon. You need to think about this sport. But what's the click-through rate, Frank? How many are actually watching it?
Hold on. Did you say Frank Warren called you a dinosaur?
He did, yeah.
I love that.
He did. Because I'm going, because every time he sends me a video with the Ngannou fight and bus backs and things like this.
Yeah.
And he sent me one the other day with a big load of buses with all the Ngannou billing. And the next bus along was The Exorcist, the film.
Right.
I said, we need an exorcism in this space to get rid of this fight. Right? He said, you're sounding like a dinosaur.
Right, okay.
But it's a big event.
Yeah.
It's an intriguing event for lots of people because they'll see it in a certain light, which is the best of one particular discipline fighting the best of another.
Yes. It's a huge crossover fight. Listen, I think you nailed it, Simon. As an event, you can't deny that it's going to be massive. The crossover is going to be huge. The pay-per-view revenue is going to be huge. The numbers huge. As a fight, it's one-sided. We know what's going to happen. Tyson Fury is going to go out there. Francis Ngannou is good in his own discipline. Coming over into the Queensberry boxing rules, it's going to be totally different. He won't be able to get his feet in range. He's too slow. Yes, he's heavy-handed, but you've got to get there to do that. We know how good Tyson Fury is, best of the generation. He's got everything. He can box feet. He can go in the trenches. He can have a fight, but he can also box and be very smart. So I just think it's going to go out. Tyson Fury will go out there, put on a show, and he will decide when and where and how he stops Francis Ngannou.
Where's the jeopardy for Tyson in this fight? Is it simply not being switched on?
Absolutely.
And allowing himself to be hit by somebody that can hit very hard?
The only way Tyson Fury gets beaten, the only person that beats Tyson Fury is Tyson Fury, because if he about and switches off and gets caught, Francis Ngannou, as we know, has got the power. And so it depends how he approaches the fight. But knowing what he knows now, knowing what he's got to go into, and they're talking about December the 23rd for that fight as well, so Tyson Fury will have to stay in camp. He's not going to want to get injured. He's not going to want to play around, so he's going to have to play it smart.
Are they talking about that? I mean, a lot of people have made a suggestion that that's promoters mucking about with one another to stymie the Conor Benn, Chris Eubank horror story.
No, I think I'm hearing more recently that it is looking more likely to be December the 23rd, and that may be sort of like, I think that.
Is that good for Tyson, though? I mean,
do you know what? I think that I think Paris has been quite vocal about, wanting Tyson to sort of finish. They want that undisputed fight. Does he have this fight, then have 3 months off, have to go through everything again to get himself in the condition? It's not really a fight he's going into, so he's not going to get much damage and wear and tear on his body. He can have a couple of weeks out, December the 23rd for this undisputed fight. It sort of makes sense, really. I can understand it.
How's he looking? Because, I mean, when we saw the press conferences, okay, that was 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe a little bit longer, right?
Yeah.
Physically, Tyson looked not at his greatest.
He looks great now.
Does he look great now?
Yeah, he's been on. I think this was. He's self-confessed. He's been on the keto diet. He's been doing a keto diet. Right. Slimmed down massively.
Is that good preparation for?
Well, it depends how he's been doing it. If I'm totally honest, look. It's Tyson Fury, so he's going to have the right nutritionists. Because if you're doing a keto diet normally, which is a meat diet, a protein diet, of course it's not, because it doesn't give you energy. You need the carbs for the energy. But Tyson Fury, obviously, he's going to have the right people around him to know that it's not just about losing weight and looking good. He's got to have the energy there as well. So, look, he looks in great shape. That's all I can say. I think that he looks in fantastic shape.
Do you think Tyson, I mean, you and I came away from watching the Usyk-Dubois fight, perplexed as to why Daniel didn't jump on him, and perplexed that Daniel didn't bite down on his gum shield.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that as a person that's never stepped in a ring, but that's what we discussed together.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've seen Usyk and we've gone, overboard, I think, at times with how great he is.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Tyson hasn't had a meaningful fight. A 4-round demolition of an out-of-place Dillian Whyte, who was the mandatory, but it was levels.
Yeah.
A charitable pension for Derek Chisora.
Yeah.
A 12-round beatdown.
Yeah.
And then fighting an MMA fight that we think is going to be a little bit like, Rocky Balboa fighting Thunder Lips, albeit different outcomes. Is that preparation? Is that in any shape or form the right sort of prep to go in for Usyk?
Absolutely, and I'll tell you why it is, Simon, because it's the training camps that he's doing in the build-up to these fights.
Right.
So the training camps that he has for the Derek Chisora fight, the training camp that he had for Dillian White fight, you're going through the same motions, doing all the sparring, etc., prepping yourself to be the best of the totally best of your condition that you can be in going into a contest. So it's not really about just the fight. Like, he's getting the rounds under his belt whilst he's having those fights. So, like, Tyson Fury is one of those fighters that he doesn't need to be having hard fights to get himself into conditions for someone like Alexander Usyk, because he knows what he's got to do to go in there. What I'm saying is it's more about these training camps that you have in the build-up. That's where the wear and tear is done with a fighter. People look at fighters, right? So for the guys that would not understand, the training regimes.
Doesn't rust come into it? Doesn't elite level
rust? Yeah,
but
he's getting rid of that rust. Like, he's getting rid of that rust when he fights Ngannou. He'll go out there, he'll play around a little bit. If he feels like the timing's not quite there or he's not doing it, he'll take the rounds to just to get himself going.
Isn't there? And this is me just throwing out a thought process, and it may be completely and utterly nonsense. But if you're not fighting elite fighters, don't you develop some elite level fighter rust, where you're not operating at that level, so you're not competing at that level? So when it comes to competing at that level, you've got to get yourself into that mode.
With Tyson,
in the moment.
With Tyson Fury, no, you're right in what you're saying, Simon. There is some right in what you're saying there. But with Tyson Fury, no. Tyson Fury is sort of he's cut from a different cloth. As in, Tyson Fury knows exactly. He's one of those guys that knows exactly. He's not like
he knows what to do and when to do it and how to do it.
What to do, when to do it. Yeah, exactly that. Like, let's use Anthony Joshua as a comparison. When you look at Anthony Joshua, he's a guy that does need the rounds, and he does need to build the confidence, and he does need to feel like to go into a fight of that magnitude. Tyson Fury doesn't, because he knows where he's at. He knows exactly where he's at. He knows what he's got to do when he fights Alexander Usyk. He knows exactly what he's got to do. We understand, that why the fight hasn't happened up until now. We understand the business side of it. We totally get that. I understand why the Ngannou fight is going ahead before this. But I think that Fury's, he's got Usyk's number for a number of reasons. And that will be like, he will know exactly what he's got to do when he goes in there. He can't allow him any space. If he allows Usyk the space, allows him to get into a rhythm, Usyk will, win the fight. But he won't allow that to happen. He'll use his size, he'll use his strengths. And that's what he does, Tyson Fury. The preparation, forget it's Ngannou, White or Chisora. The preparation's there. He knows what he's got to do.
Well, we're going to have plenty of time to discuss Fury versus Usyk once we've seen the Ngannou fight.
Yes.
But when you see the spectacle, and obviously there's a hell of a lot of noise being made, and fair play to Frank, because the one thing I said to him was, I accept the principle of this is just a money fight. I want you to own it, Frank, and tell me it's all about the money.
Yeah.
Right? And then I want you to promise us that you will move on from this, and that we will have real fights attached to there and afterwards. That's your gatekeeper. That moves the skills challenge nonsense to one side and the deals that Eddie couldn't do. You've got a gatekeeper. You've got a relationship direct with the PIF fund. That opens the door. Away you go.
Yeah.
And it's proven to be the case.
Absolutely.
Right. And do you feel very confident? Because we did have this situation 2 years ago.
Yeah.
3 years ago, sorry, when he was signed, when Anthony Joshua was signed. No, who was the challenge? Where he was signed to fight Joshua, and he couldn't get out of the rematch with Wilder.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I said to Frank,
arbitration.
Hang on, Frank. If he's got a clause to fight Wilder, if there's a rematch clause in there, and it hasn't got a drop dead date on timelines, are you going to get out of this contract?
Yeah.
And Frank was like, wait and see, and he couldn't get out of it.
Well,
do you believe that we're now in a situation with the Usyk Fury situation that this is nailed on?
Absolutely. I think that they were surprised that Wilder actually took up that rematch clause, and the arbitration overruled Fury going in with Anthony Joshua, etc., and they had to go back into the Wilder fight, which disappointed the fans as well. But I think they were henching their bets there, Frank Warren, Fury, the team, on Wilder not stepping up and taking that trilogy fight with them. I don't think they thought it was going to happen, hence why they were making other plans. And what happened, the fight fell through. Do I think that this fight will happen with Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk? Absolutely yes. I think that December the 23rd is a very strong date, and it could happen. And if it doesn't, it will definitely happen in the early part of next year. I think that those contracts are signed. The backers that they've got behind the fight, as you know, are solid. They have the money. They are delivering. Skills Challenge didn't have the money. They were looking to fund the money from Frank's guys. So we're in a great position. I think the 2024 is going to be unbelievable, but we could even see it in 23.
Just to top and tail the expectation of the Ngannou fight, if you're looking at it and boiling it down, do you expect Tyson Fury to knock him out very quickly, or do you expect him to fanny about, making a spectacle of it for 3 or 4 rounds so everyone gets their money's worth, and then do it when he feels like
it?
The
Ngannou fight?
Yeah, the Ngannou fight.
I think it's going to be a show. I think that Tyson Fury go out there and he will just dominate and slowly, systematically break Ngannou up and break his heart, steal his soul. And, you know, and that's basically how it will go. I think that Ngannou will give it a go, to be fair, because he's got nothing to lose. Ngannou will roll the dice. So Fury will play it smart. He'll keep it long because he'll know that why would he stand there and trade and give Ngannou that opportunity? Because that is his only opportunity. So I think it'll be a slow beatdown, and I see Fury winning inside 5-6 rounds.
Before I get on to the topic of the next topic we've got, which is the discussion around the fight that I really want to see, which is Joshua versus Wilder, and the fact that it's off, on, likely to be off. I just wanted to touch briefly upon your expectation of Dan Azeez fighting Josh Buatsi.
Yeah.
Because obviously Dan was very upset with some of the things that were said about him last week.
Yeah.
And felt that his integrity and the value of him in boxing had been questioned by another promoter. Are you expecting, and Ben I thought was a little vague and needed to be a bit more robust in some of the things that he said, and a little bit more with some of the things that he was saying, Ben Shalom. Do you expect the Buatsi Azeez fight to come back on before the turn of the year?
Definitely not.
Definitely not.
I know. Listen, I don't know that.
What, because of the damage to Dan, or because the appetite's gone?
I've spoke to Dan. I've spoke to Joshua Buatsi. I spoke to Joshua on Saturday night, actually. And Dan says that he doesn't feel that it will be this side of the year because obviously he needs the time to recover and then he needs the time to get himself back in shape. Joshua Buatsi said, look, I've had the conversation with Dan. We've spoke. It's a fight that we both want. We understand the magnitude of the fight. We understand the position and what we can get off the back of it. Yeah. So it's a fight that they both still want, but I believe it happens early part of next year. I reckon we're looking at January/February time. We could see it as early as January. I heard January the 20th is a date that's a possibility.
Because the prize after that is Bivol, right?
Absolutely.
If Bivol deals with Callum.
Absolutely. And let me just say to the people that are watching this that will write their little notes underneath saying what you're talking about. They both turned the fight down with Bivol, etc., etc. Again, we go back to the business side of things, Simon, which you understand totally. The reason that Dan Azeez, Joshua Buatsi have both turned down the fights with Bivol because of the contracts that they were in and what they had to sign. Like, so if they accepted the fight or whatever, so that was the only reason the fights didn't happen. Not because
I don't buy that though.
No, but Azeez and Buatsi, speaking as an ex-fighter and understanding where they are, the prize is that you want the ultimate prize, you want the biggest challenge. There's no way that they go, you go like, oh yeah, they didn't fancy the fight. Fighters don't think like that.
No, but I do have empathy with the observation about Josh. I'm happy to accept his observation about wanting to go to Sky and not liking DAZN as a platform and thinking it's a dog with fleas, right? Because he'll think Sky is the premium. But the idea that Eddie Hearn wasn't entitled to get him to a longer contract after pumping money into the background, and this is my payday, and I'm a promoter, this is the business that I'm in, I expect some return on investment. And return on investment isn't you go winning a world title in the light heavyweight and I'm off somewhere else to monetize someone else. So I get that.
I totally understand. No, I understand from the business point of view, from Eddie Hearn's side, totally understand it. But speaking to Buatsi, it was something that he wasn't prepared to do. Hence why.
No, I get it.
Hence why he said, look, I understand that Eddie needs a return on his investment, but I didn't want to go there because I didn't feel that I was getting anything or achieving anything on that platform, and I wanted to go there. Hence why I turned down the fight.
I still feel
not because he didn't fancy the fight.
I still feel, as much as I like Dan Azeez, the fight I really want to see is in that.
I know where you go.
Buatsi yard, right?
Yeah. Well, I spoke to Anthony on Saturday as well, actually, and that's a fight that he really wants. Yeah. Right. So, like he said, look, yeah, of course, I want the winner of the fight.
Because I think stylistically that's a great fight.
Yeah, and I think they've got the history between the pair of them as well. I saw them both speaking there on Saturday night, and he was saying, look, yeah, if Dan Azeez wins, of course, me and Dan Azeez is going to be a big fight, of course that. But he said, because we've got history, he said, the Buatsi is the one that I really want. So, yeah, interesting. But that light heavyweight division...
I'm a huge fan of Anthony Yard. Yeah. I thought the fight against Beterbiev was a fascinating fight. In the end, levels got into the equation when Beterbiev
had to ask himself a few
but
questions,
did,
mate. Trust
you know,
me, yeah.
and we know in his previous tilts at the light heavyweights against Kovalov.
Yeah, Kovalev, yeah.
Kovalev, he had the chance.
Well, inexperience, yeah. He had the chance, and he blew it and blew a gasket at the same time.
But I loved it. I loved the rematch against Lyndon Arthur.
Yeah.
I loved that Anthony Yard that came out and just went.
What people must understand about Anthony Yard is that he's learnt his trade on the job, right? He had no extensive amateur.
That's an unfortunate expression, Spence.
It's a different show, Simon. It's a different show, my friend. Yeah, no, what I was saying is he had no extensive amateur background. He had a couple of white collar fights, and he turned professional, and he's been sort of like learning, building. So, you know, the Kovalev fight, you go, right, I understand that you blew a gasket, you know, and that was it, but we saw the improvements in the Beterbiev fight, and you go, wow, you know, this kid is improving all the time. That's a great fight. I'd love to see the winner of Buatsi, Azeez, and Yard. That's the fight I want to see.
Yeah, me too.
And not forgetting about Callum either.
Yeah.
Callum Smith.
Absolutely.
Put him in the mix because that's a great fight as well.
Yeah, I think it is as well.
Yeah.
I just think Bivol now is on a high though, isn't he?
Yeah.
After some of the recent performances he put in, he's a different Bivol than we saw fighting Craig Richards.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, Joshua Wilder.
Yes.
The disappointment. I mean, we had Malik Scott on a show who I really liked. I thought he was a fascinating character in terms of, you know, he's obviously a fighter that fought Deontay Wilder, got knocked out by him in a round, ends up training him and his insight into it. But
he's a great student of the game, isn't he?
Yeah,
he knows his stuff.
Yeah, he's a great speaker.
Yeah.
And a really enjoyable company because he's not one of those that says you haven't laced the glove, you haven't got the right to have an opinion.
Yeah.
He'll listen to you and then he will be able to discredit your argument by discrediting it through his knowledge rather than just, you don't lace the glove.
Yeah.
But this situation, you know, I think the Joshua camp were very disappointed when they saw this Fury-Usyk fight being made.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
it could be the end of an opportunity for Joshua, because if Fury goes and beats Usyk and cements in his own mind a legacy, he's not going to be throwing any bones to Anthony Joshua anytime to help him up.
And we've got the rematch clause in there as well.
Yeah, and the rematch. And the only way that conversation happens is if someone like Deontay Wilder was on Anthony Joshua's radar and actually, I mean, in front of him, and he knocks him out and does it in such a compelling fashion.
Yeah.
But we seem to be a way away from that again.
Yeah, we do.
What do you think?
Listen, so where do I think we're sitting at the moment? I think that there's two opponents in line for Anthony Joshua next. I think that Zhale Zhang is one of them. This is only speaking again to Eddie and what he's telling me on Saturday night, because I said I threw that name out there. It's a fight that I like, fight that I'd like to see Joshua in with you know, Zhang coming off those good wins against Joyce.
It has a whiff of something more than Robert Helenius.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Jermaine Franklin.
What's the kid's name? Caballero, the European champion. Is there? So that's another name that's thrown in there. I go, well, that don't really interest anyone. You know, he had a win. He won the European title out in Monte Carlo against Caballero, against Derek Chisora in 2017.
Why do you think they can't? I mean, look, I know Eddie Hearn spoke about it the other day and spoke about the money isn't there.
Yeah.
Right. And so there has to be a reset in people's minds.
Yeah.
But there's still plenty of money in this fight. You could still make this Wilder Joshua fight at 50 million
Absolutely.
quid. You'd get 100,000, 94,000 fans at Wembley Stadium. You'd be able to pick up significant media interest because of the Wilder component for the Americans and because of the British and European component for Joshua. It's still a circa. It's a bigger fight than what Frank Purse bid for Dillian Whyte and Tyson Fury as a world title fight.
I agree. So I think where we're at with it is, Simon, that Anthony Joshua is adamant that he wants to fight this year. And that's why Eddie Hearn is looking now, because the Wilder fight has fallen through. I think that will be the fight they'll make after this fight. So I believe that if we go to Zhale Zhang or Caballero, like I say, one of those opponents, that's the likely opponent for this next one in December. Then I think we see Wilder possibly in the springtime.
Would you prefer?
That's where I'd sit.
I would prefer to see Anthony fighting Zhang, because I think it has credibility.
Caballero
in that fight.
That does nothing for
it's
me
like the
at
Manuel
all.
Chow argument, isn't it?
Huh?
It's like having Manuel Chow in a conversation, isn't it?
Exactly the same. Yeah, exactly the same. I want to see Joshua in with Zhale Zhang. They got history. in the Olympics back in 2012. Good fight, by the way, close fight. So let's see it again.
Where's the conversation of Filip Hrgović coming into the conversation? Is this because the belt's going to drop away?
He's not. Hrgović is not coming into the Joshua conversation. Well,
Wasn't Eddie trying to suggest that
Hrgović is IBF #1 contender,
which is a mandatory for
Otto Wallin is IBF #2. So if them titles fragment, Otto Wallin is fighting Filip Hrgović. So there's no position. So why would Filip Hrgović want to fight Anthony Joshua and put his IBF #1? Yeah, but what I'm saying is he can wait for the belt and then, and that's where we're sort of.
And to be fair to Hrgović, when he came on the show, he said, "I'm not stepping aside for anybody."
That's right.
Listen,
every fighter's dream from when they're a kid is to become world champion, and I understand it. So you go when you've got when you're sort of touching the belt, you go, I know I'm in line. It's going to happen at some point. It's like the step aside thing, and that's where Hrgović is from. He's one of those guys that goes, I want to follow my dream, I want to get the title. That's what it's all about. I'm pissed off of all this landscape moving, people taking step aside money, etc. Let me get my hands on my belt, and then I've got a bit of power.
No, I spoke to him and I put it to him that I thought that Zhang had beaten him.
Yeah.
And he said, well, you can think what you want, but the record says I won, and I think I won, and I'm not stepping aside.
Well, it was a similar thing with the Josh Taylor sort of thing, wasn't it? Like, you know what I mean? I was out there, I was at ringside, and I thought Zhang won the fight. Yeah, he tied a little bit down the backstretch. But wow, man, like Zhang was unbelievable that day, yeah.
If you were to put money, which you probably wouldn't because your hand goes nowhere near your pocket, but if you were to put money...
Can't believe you said that.
If you were to put money on who Anthony would fight next, who do you think it will be? And when?
I think he fights in December. And I think it's going to be Fabio.
That's what I think.
Yeah, do you? I think it's going to be Fabio.
And that's not because Anthony doesn't want to take the fights that have got more jeopardy in it. It's because I think the people around him look around and think, we could miss out on the bigger picture here.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being cynical. British fight coming up. Fabio Wardley.
I love this fight, by the way. Fabio Wardley, and David Adeleye. It's a great fight. Two unbeaten fighters. What's Wardley's 16-0, 15 KOs. Adelaye's 12-0 with 11 KOs. Great fight. There's been a lot of banter in the build-up to this one as well, as in like a lot of dislike between the pair of them. So, Fabio Wardley doesn't think that David actually likes to fight. Like, David's got that sort of style where he likes, although he's heavy-handed, he likes to take his time, pick his shots down the outside. Fabio Wardley, I think career best performance for me was, and it was a coming-of-age fight for him, was when he beat Nathan Gorman. He had Gorman over in the second round, then tried again a couple of times in the third round. But it was a coming-of-age fight for him because everyone was going, well, Fabio Wardley was one of those guys like Anthony Yard, come from that background of just a couple of white-collar fights, no extensive amateur background. And he goes in there, he gets tagged in the second round against Gorman, who's the guy with the experience and maybe the favourite in that fight. He gets tagged in the second round, you see his legs do a little dance and you think, right, let's see what this guy's made of. Guess what? He switched. He went for it and he turned it around straight away within 30 seconds. He put it on. So, answered a lot of questions for me there. Like going in, like that fight was a coming-of-age fight for him. Adeleye still, I'll go through that. Adelaye's the one that I've seen develop as an amateur and seen him come through. There's always been a big bit of hype around him, but he hasn't been in that acid test fight yet. This is it on Saturday. If I think he's as good as he is, I believe Adeleye wins.
Where does that leave Fraser Clark in the picture?
Well, Fraser Clark could be next in line for the winner of those. Like Fraser Clark's a guy that's hovering around there, like that, and that's the obvious sort of fight.
Because the Fraser Clark fight against Dave Allen didn't really impress anybody, and obviously we had this situation where Ben Shalom put a purse bid in for Fabio Wardley versus because he was a manager for that, wasn't he? And then pulled him out of that fight because he felt he needed more rounds and more experience in longer fights, right?
That he just felt that timing wasn't right there, but put in the purse bid, then pulled him out. It was a bit of a mess, if I'm totally honest.
What do you think about the undercard?
I love the undercard. I don't mind the undercard. The undercard's good. I'm going to pronounce this wrong, so I've got Big Mo over there. He's been helping me with this. Makhmudov? Makhmudov.
Yeah, I left that alone.
I know that. Yeah, Makhmudov. He's great, mate. He's 16-0, 15 KOs. The only fight that he's gone the distance with was Carlos Takam. Yeah, Takam over in 20 seconds and he thought the fight was gone. He's a Russian guy that is big, he's strong, 6'5", loves throwing the right hand, heavy-handed. He's a great addition to the heavyweights, actually. I think he's WBC ranked number 3 or number 5. Number 3. WBC ranked number 3, so he's there. He's in touch with
potential one.
Oh, he's going to cause anyone a problem.
A potential fight for AJ?
Listen, because he's not a recognised name, it's not a name you want to go near. He's becoming like, he's getting to that Martin Bacoli stage, who's on the bill as well.
I'm going to ask you about him next.
Yeah. You know, when they become the chairman of the who needs him, who wants him club, Bacoli's like in that position as well, but they're creeping up the rankings now. So these fighters are going to have to fight them at some point. They're working their way up like that old school way, do you know what I mean? So, you know, there's some good fights. Yeah, I really like the undercard fight. What is there, five heavyweight title fights?
Moses out as well, isn't he?
Yeah, Moses and Tuma, which is... He's the kid that I believe will take the baton from the other heavyweights.
Yeah,
I think he's got the potential. What is he, 18 years of age?
Young.
Yeah, he's got the potential to become the next superstar in heavyweight boxing, because one thing Frank Warren does is he's great at managing and developing fighters. That's what that is what his speciality is, and I think that they'll do that with Ntama, but all these guys will be gone by then. They're all in their 30s, you know. We're talking about the next generation when you're talking about what Wardley. When you're talking about Wardley's slightly older, but
it'll be Daniel Dubois' generation, won't it? Because he's in that. He's 25 years of age.
Yeah, I like the undercard. I really like the undercard of that.
He got turned down, didn't he, Daniel?
For the appeal.
Did he get anything? He didn't, because Frank was after 3 things, wasn't he? He was asking for an annulment of the result. He was asking for a rematch or a reinstatement as the mandatory.
Yeah.
He got none of the above.
Not I understand. No,
right.
No. Okay. I mean, listen, you're entitled to your appeal, and I think it was subjective. It was the way that what the ref said at the time, that he was an accidental low blow, and that's probably where they've gone from it. So yeah, listen, Daniel will come again. You know, he'll get his opportunity again. Like I say, this next generation of heavyweights coming through. But Wardley Adeleye. That's going to be a good fight, because that will tell us a lot more about the.
Don't you think? I mean, on the same subject in the same division, but don't you think Carlos Takam versus Martin Bacoli will be a good fight?
Love that
fight. I think it will be a good fight.
Absolutely. Mahmoudov as well is going to be a good fight, and then we've got Joseph Parker's on there as well.
Is he?
Yeah, Joseph Parker's on the bill as well. He's boxing Keane, so yeah, that's going to be a good fight as well. So yeah, it's good.
So a good undercard.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Right, Spence.
Yeah.
That's it for episode 45 of Talk Boxing with you and I.
Oh, by the way,
we didn't spend the whole show talking about ourselves, not once.
By the way, are we doing something? Are we going big on the 50th? I'm hearing rumours we're going big on the 50th.
Yeah, apparently Pat came up with a brainstorm.
Yeah.
I can't
it's one of his better ones.
Can't imagine it was his.
It's one of his better ones. He's not here today.
Got to be present in the moment, isn't he? Yeah, Romero's here, which is what we want. Controlling the direction, producing the output, being present, being committed.
There you go.
Not swinging a golf club.
Throwing a few ideas in.
He's got this idea that someone's given him, because I know it's not his, about having an event for the 50th show, which is a staged event.
Here in the building.
In the building, with some interesting people and Carl Froch. I don't mean it, Carl. I don't mean it.
Oh, no. Right, let's see.
I think they're talking about Frank and Ben Shalom perhaps being there. I mean, I've said to Pat, I double-dogged it. Get Eddie involved. Get Eddie involved.
I got told today that Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren were the front runners to get them.
Well, I think that would be great.
Do you know why? Because we've not had Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren in a room before. I believe that's not happened.
I think that would be great.
Yeah.
And I think it would be interesting. And I think you'd get to see so much, because Frank's got a lot to say about Eddie, and Eddie's got a lot to say about Frank.
Absolutely, it'd be fantastic.
And I've got a lot to say about all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time we're out.